Send love, send love. Yeah, how you doing, how you doing, how you doing? Finally. Yes, let me say welcome, petit peu, to all of the Genesis family out there. It's a privilege and pleasure to be here with you on a short version of the People's Talk Show today. As you know, time started and things were happening, but we're here today, even for a short version. That's what we're about. We're about the discussions and about people's opinions and our own views. So you know what it is. So we want to say it's a privilege and pleasure to be here with you to share some ideas and concepts on this blustery day. I know that some of you have been experiencing some really rough and windy weather. Even some of the trees were down as well, and I didn't think it would happen. I thought, well, you know, they gave a yellow warning, and it didn't happen. But I think when I got up in the morning, saw a few damages here and there. Well, everything's changing. The wind, the weather pattern is changing. A whole heap of things are changing in life, and I suppose that is what life is all about. Changes in life. Nothing remains the same, and nothing lasts forever. And so, let me say welcome. Let me say rise up to all of the presenters here on the Genesis side of things, and their hard work. And it is hard work to keep the station running, you know, especially when certain things are happening. But that's for another time, you know. We just wanted us to welcome you and want to invite you to, if you feel you got something that's weighing heavily on your mind, and you know, sometimes we set the trend, but I will allow for other other voices, other concerns within reason. It doesn't take us too far away from the main. I don't know what's been happening in the community today. What's been happening today? This week, actually. It's been an adventurous couple of weeks. So far, the month has been adventurous. In terms of community events, I don't know. I suppose what's the main event that we can talk about that's happened the last couple of days or weeks within the community, within our reach, within our grasp. I suppose the most talk about event would be the reparation march that we had, although some of you don't see it as a community event, and this is where I would like to get some consensus on the views concerning the event. I don't know if you feel like you want to talk about it. It's not a problem. It's whether you're aware of it or not. It is an event for the community. So I would love to have your views on the event, and of course your views actually on reparations and what is it? What is reparations? And people have been talking a lot about reparations nowadays, and I wondered if we really have a good understanding of the term, and I wondered if we understood the real meaning behind reparations and the whole concept itself. I don't think it's a crime if we can look at it. You know, I think personally, this should have happened a long time before. If we were consulted on it, do we see it as a viable thing? Is it valued? Is it something that you want to be part of? Or is it something that you feel that you should be or shouldn't be part of? I'd like to know your reasons why, and stuff like that. And you know, what is it all about? And the history of it. I didn't do any research on the history of reparations because there's so many different views on it. It's hard to really pinpoint or pin down the main views or the main meaning of the word. I often hear and get it mixed up with compensation, and that's one of the things I notice, that 1 minute it's reparations, and then the next minute it's compensation. and then it's both. So we've got to the point now where we are agreed that they're talking about both things here. I don't know how that would work. So I'd like to hear your opinion on it and see your ideas on it. And the numbers to call are, as usual, 0779 542 9449. I repeat, 0779 542 9449. The call will bring you into the studios, and so we can have a discussion on the meaning, the true meaning, or the meaning, or the popular meaning of the term and what it really entails. I don't know. I mean, again, I won't be voicing my opinion on it because it wouldn't make any sense to do that. I think it's better if we have opinions from outside of mine. I can be less opinionated in this one. It's very important because otherwise, we're coming down on one side or the other. Is it a project or is it something that the wider community are aware of, and is it something that they would want to be partakers in? See, this is where we got to find out. And so I'd like to take the opportunity to test the temperature then, or to feel the pulse of the community. And one of the things related to this is the idea of a collective consciousness. I'd like to know if there is such a thing that exists among the community as a whole. And again, there is this idea of a separate community within the community. Are we a community because we share the same territory? Are we a community because we have different ethnic backgrounds, and does it pale into the community as far as your ethnicity goes? You remain deep inside that community, so we can say then we are of many different ethnic communities sharing one territory. Now I think for that alone, that constitutes a community, shared territory, and shared values. Suppose that comes into it, we share the same values as a result of living in a shared area, so we will go on that and find out what is the community's consciousness. Then there is the other aspect of it, isn't it? There is the ethnic aspect of it, where which I think is more or less what is being put forward, really, because it happened to a particular group. So straight away we know that the other groups can't share that thing, because there's where it becomes cultural specific or ethnic specific in terms of ethnicity. And so that's where it moves away. Straight away it moves from the shared community, shared area, to a specific community, because it happens specifically to a community, a ethnic group. And so I don't know if that ethnic group, being conscious of itself, if there's a collective consciousness concerning that particular aspect of it, there could well be, and there should be. And this collective consciousness I'm trying to tap into, since it's I could belong to that group whether I want to or not, because of my color, I suppose. So there, straight away there is that aspect, that whether you want it to belong to it or not, by dint of your color, you automatically are engrafted in it, whether you accept it or not. That's how people will see you. Whether you want to be seen that way, I suppose, then that's the reality. So within a society, we find there's a group, specific ethnic group, that are making a claim, you see, and so that's on behalf of other groups, other ethnic groups of the same color. So where the two groups are involved here, the African and the Caribbean. And we know that the Caribbean came out of the African group, without a shadow of a doubt, but along with that goes the fact that the whole human race came out of a particular group as well. And sometimes that part of it is not really looked at. The whole ethnic group has emerged from that group. Humanity has emerged, and that's what I like to do. I don't like to have a narrow view, a local view of this coming out of Africa, because you can't just have a local view of that. You have to also acknowledge that all humans come from there. So how do you separate the fact that you, being black, are from Africa, and yet any human can turn around and say that they are from that place as well, by affiliation, if not directly from there, but by affiliation. And how do you then have separate races? You see where it's come from now? So this whole idea of separate races could be a misnomer within itself. It's not a safe foundation to build from. To separate the races in terms of landmass doesn't make it a separation in terms of humanity, which you can never do. All groups are human. I don't know. I'm not talking about no pseudoscience here to say that groups, this is where the pseudoscience comes in now, now they're telling us that these groups are made by aliens, or made by some otherworldly being, you see. And this is where it pales now into what you call theories on the reason for the diversity of the human group. And if you have the reason for the diversity of the human group, and even though doesn't matter how diverse the group is, the fact still remains that they are come under one umbrella, and they come under the umbrella of human. Well, I say, can you really say that you were English before you were human? Can you say that you were Indian before you were human? If anyone can say that, if there's any group around that can really confess and profess that they were their ethnicity before they were human, and human is the term that we use to describe peoples of the earth. You can't call them Venusians or from Venus. I know we ain't from Venus. I know the mystery does abound when we look in terms of our universe and our galaxies, and people say we're not the only ones around in the galaxy, but I have never seen any other visitor from any other globe within the Milky Way or the heavens to know that there's other creatures, other beings that are existing. We've yet to see an alien walk down the street and say, "Oh, I'm from Venus." We've yet to see that happen. And who says that they would be even walking? It could be floating. They could be doing some other things. Whatever their movements may be, why should they be walking? And why even should they even have two legs? Obviously, that reveals that it's from the same maker who made the humans. If you have two legs, two arms, one head, and you're an alien, then you must be made from the same creator. To boot. And so with that, we have to realize, and then if you can worm your way out of that one, then you can say that we are not the same. You understand? So really, we have to really strip it down to its finite elements to know that no matter which way, any which way you want to move, we're human. How about that? Is there an agreement on that? Do you think that you can also include, if you really think that we could be other things other than human? And I know when it comes down to the mystery system, that's exactly what the mystery system was trying to tell us, that we're other than we're not just human. But that's another story for another time. That is, if we're in that frame of mind. At the moment, we're not really in that level, I believe, most of us, the majority of us. And so we have to just grapple with the things that are tangible around us, and that the fact is that we are all human. So we're on agreement then that We are all humans, stripped of any poetry, of any land mass, or of any ethnicity. At the end of the day, and this is to me, this is the overarching principle that needs to be guiding our thinking when in terms of thinking about us as a human group, if we are going to save the planet. I know that there are some groups out there that have the power to confiscate parts of the land and call it theirs, and there are those that are born in particular land masses that can say, well, I'm from this particular land mass, so therefore I am that. But then that's a move away from the fact that we are humans. And I reckon if we're going to come to a consensus, we can leave our differences, our ethnicity behind for a moment, although you don't have to leave it behind, as long as you can integrate it into the fact that we're all humans, and then we share different experiences, and that's towards human relationship, proper human relationship, and proper understanding and proper respect. If we look at this is a principle that we can agree by. There's no point having an argument where we can never agree. That's a rubbish argument. That's a waste of time argument if there's no agreement. And so with this one, at least we can have a point of agreement. And that's good argument when you can have a point of agreement. And I want to say this, right? Our point of agreement is the fact that we are human. How about that? So all of the ethnicities have to come under one umbrella, and it is because of political reasons why you find that the diversities pale into ethnicities and cultures, but the fact is still there. You cannot move away from that fact that we all are human. So we can agree then that we were human before we were any of those ethnicities that are now vying for political stance. We've gone into politics, you know, and I would say that's a human thing. That's okay, because that's a human thing. Politics are something that humans partake in when they are creating, and I always say that if we look at the theory behind societies, and the overarching theory is from what's his name? I keep mentioning him. I can't remember his name right now. But his theory is that humans were wild in nature at one point, and you know, they were subjected to their own laws, and so when they began to form societies, they would have to then come under a government. This is the origin of government, the theory of government, that we have a social contract with governments. And from the start, from the inset, this is what humans, so we can say it's a human thing that we congregate together. It's a human thing, like animal thing. Animals of the birds of one feather flock together. Lions congregate with lions. Hyenas with hyenas. Reindeers with reindeers. You know, all these things. You know, gazelles with gazelles. Giraffes with giraffes. And that seems to be the trend of things. That seems to be a rule in the animal kingdom. And that also spills over into the human kingdom. So it's a rule that we congregate together. It's also in line with what I talk about, the tree of life. It's also in line with that. It's in line with the first sphere of the tree, which is unity. We're unified like that. You see, so we're already unified, if you know what I mean. So when we unify ourselves through the fact that we are humans and we congregate, that's a law. It's one of the 11 laws of Ma'at. You see, so we're living the law, and we're acting out the law by congregating with each other. We enter into marriage and into relationships, and you know, and all these things. It's not because of we choose to do that, but it's because of a human thing. So at least with that theory, we can see it really. We can verify this in nature. That is the We don't, no man's an island thing, no man lives alone, everybody wants to congregate. So there's this urge to congregate. So we can say it's one of the 11 urges of man to congregate. And that's proof in our societies that we form, and that, as an experience to the world, to the earth. You see, this is our answer to ontology and all the rest of the ologies, all the questions that the earth is asking of us in our experience of it over millenniums. And that's in line also with another law, another spiritual law, and that's the law of our immortality. And we share with these things with the divinity. So it's really complicated. I can see it's complicated. It's not just it's what your idea is basically of the world and its doings, its trappings. One writer said that they look at the world through the brain, and cultures through the brain, left and right hemisphere. One writer said that the West is domiciled in the left side of the brain, while the South or Africans are domiciled, or people from that end, neck of the woods, are domiciled in the right side of their brain. And so when we look at life, we could also have that view, which is, I reckon, is a valuable view. If you want to understand life, they're just left and right hemisphere brain expressions. Cultures are that. They're just expressions of the workings of the right and left hemisphere of the brain and their response to the universe. You can look at it like that. That's a more philosophical or intellectual view, which some people are afraid of. I don't know why. We shouldn't be afraid of intellectualizing our experience, and this is what we try to do here down in the Genesis neck of the woods. We want to intellectualize our experience. And so that goes hand in hand with the idea that I've put forward earlier, and asking what is reparations, because sometimes we don't really understand the human societies and how societies run. We understand the animal kingdom. There's a lot of programs on nature where they try to understand the behavior of the animals. But there's also to be a understanding of the behavior of the human. And I've always said it, it's going to be down to our behavior. And it's always that, in the end of the day, it's how we behave one to another. And it's been like that from time immemorial. We interact with animals, but we don't live with them. We do live with them in some sense, but we don't. I mean, communicate with them, and they're part of our kingdom, part of their kingdom. So it's their kingdom that they cannot do what we can do. That's why we are in the place that we are. The manifestation, when it comes down to humans, and the divinity have manifested in humans, it can realize itself more in humans than it can realize itself in animals, you see, because they live by instinct. They don't have free will. That's one of the things in taking into consideration when we do talk about societies is the free will thing. Had a missed call there. Oh, 2 missed calls. Okay, sorry about that. You can call again on 0779 542 9449. 0779 542 9442. Sorry, 9449. Right, got frog in my throat. Right, so we understand, because we have to have an understanding of these things, so we know where we are. It all ties in with the reparation, because once we understand the human, this is the way I see it. It's just I don't want to give my opinion in any case, so I'm not going to. Thanks. A good thing I did draw back there. I want your opinion. I want to hear you. I want to hear what you think about reparations. What is reparations? And because of the past event that happened in our society, we in our community, and what it's really saying to us. What is it saying to you? What is the voice that's calling to you whenever you hear the term reparation, repair? The confusion that I have is that when we listen to repair, I don't know what it means in the sense. Can we relate it to what's happening? Repair means to fix, innit? I haven't looked at the dictionary. I have, but I forgot what the meant. It's no, I can't look at it on the Wikipedia down here at the moment. So you can Google it yourself, and you come up and tell me what repair is. I have an idea what repair is. My idea may not be correct, but I understand it to be to repair something is to fix something. Reparation. So this is the confusion I have. I don't know what they're asking for. Without giving my opinions, I don't know. This is just my concerns, I suppose. I don't know what they're asking for. Repair. I mean, the question is, can you ask somebody for repair? If I was damaged, I can't ask you to repair me. I have to go and repair myself, innit? So why would I then go and ask you? This is where the confusion comes in. I ask for you to repair me. Don't make an ounce of sense. So when they're asking for reparation, I want to know what it really means. Maybe you can enlighten me. In my ignorance, I love for someone to enlighten me as to what it really means to repair. So far, I understand it to be because of slavery. I understand it to be that we want to be paid, and this is where the distinction comes in, to be paid. See, I can't talk about reparations without talking about this pay thing. Although some of the organizations that have formed around that are reluctant to admit that their thing is also concerning. Reparatory justice means payment. So this is a problem I had until I studied further, and I realized that the reason why I'm confused is because I have not distinguished between compensation and reparation. So this is along with a lot of other confusions, and I don't know how people can organize around things, and these things are not squared. I made a suggestion in the group once that what should have happened, as far as it's my own opinion, and I'm not giving it for the show, but I'm just telling you what I did in a group. I put there, and I said, the reparations, the repair is, it's not apparent with compensation. I can't see the correlation. Every time there's a slip into repair when they're talking about into compensation, when they're talking about repair, they tend to merge, and I can understand marching for compensation, but I don't really understand marching for reparation. I don't understand that phrase. Maybe someone can enlighten me on that. I'm not understanding the correlation. I said, why would I ask someone for a repair? So maybe I'm ignorant, and maybe you can enlighten me and the validity of it. And I also said I did propose that the community should have been consulted before. It would have been good if they were consulted and then asked if we want to be. Are we ready for that kind of a fight? Is it something that we see as viable? Maybe if they did the little research, and they would have known where they would be. If the interest is there, although the history is there, but is the interest there? Remember, we've got 1.3 million blacks here in the UK. Sorry, out of that 1.3 million blacks, how much of them are really interested or see that as a viable option, that's something that they would want to take, and what they can glean from that? 1.3 million, remember, that's compared to how much millions of people here in the UK. So the 1.3 million blacks, if they were really all interested, that would be, and they all signed a petition or something, or all were marching, 1.3 million, that's a whole lot of people. I mean, the carnival's more than that. Carnival's 2 million. So I saw, when I went to the carnival, I was doing a bit of stewarding at the carnival, last year's carnival, which I'd never ever do again. No way, brethren. What? You see what 2 million people look like? My God. Damn. It looks frightening. Especially when they're all in the different colors. You see? So I had to be there from 9 right through till midnight, and I swear that I wouldn't even walk past it, brethren. The way I felt about that day, I felt like my toes were exploding. I never felt so uncomfortable for a long time. And by a float, I almost got sucked in. The way the health and safety issue around that, brethren, is terrible. I almost got sucked in under a float because they had this string that was tied to the float, and you got caught up in the wheel. They pulled tight. It's like a razor blade, and that busted. And I thought this is a bit risky, and so I was glad to finish that. And so it went on. So our 2 million people looks very frightening. So the thing is, you can hold 2 million people in one borough, not a problem, because they held 2 million people in Ladbroke Grove. Just in Ladbroke Grove alone, 2 million. So you compare 1.3 million, which is, you'll see where I'm beginning to go with this. 1.3 million, and still a lot of people, but not as much as 2 million, obviously. But it does look daunting, it looks frightening. So you can imagine 1.3 million people marching. So you're not going to get 1.3 million people to march. Definitely not. It would have been good if the 1.3 million people felt the need to march. They felt it was a viable, and worthwhile endeavor. They would probably more or less want to partake. But we don't know. The temperature wasn't tested. We don't know how many people. Well, we can judge now by the look at things, by the small number of people that attend, that compared to the 1.3 million that we have here in the UK. A couple of hundred, a couple of thousands is nothing. So for the cause, so obviously that's going to come with a problem. It's going to be, people begin to look at that and say, well, you can't get 1.3 million people interested. If we did, then we would be well on our way. You know what I mean? Because then if it's just a matter of funding, we could ask every one of those 1.3 million to give £1. you see where I'm coming from with this? If we really had the interest of the people, then you would be able to give. You'd be able to be economically strong as well, because then all you need to do is just to turn around to the people and say, could you all donate £1, just £1? And we have 1.3 million pounds. That could fund any march. You see, any day that would secure positions. But we don't have that kind of we leverage that kind of idea around us for some unknown reason. So the mystics are within the 1.3 million blacks. Is there an understanding of what reparation is? I'm not sure if there's a consensus on the idea. Obviously there isn't, because otherwise they'd have more people participate. And that's the same throughout the world, I do believe. If I look at the African continent and I say, how much of the African continent is interested or ever even speak about reparations, and you would think that the country itself, or the landmass itself, which was involved in that trauma, would be at the forefront, leading the march, really. And if a country, 54 countries, don't even talk about 2 million people, we're talking about 54 countries here, a few billion people, a very wide continent, that would have solved all problems as well. But as I said, there was already a union of the continent, which they call the AU, the African Union, which I do believe that 54 countries have signed up to. So no matter what you feel or what say about the African Union, you got countries signed up, mate. So your little opinion is I'm sorry, your little paper castle has to come down, Bridget, because we can have ideas and opinions on the country itself when we have in order a organized, signed up unity of countries, 54 countries. I think there's a few, 53, 52, there's a few that abstained, and just recently They have talk about Congo, I think, somewhere like that, spending their own money now. The French doing away with the French money, and they're having their own money now to break away from the entrenchment on that. So there you have it. So you have that happening in Africa, with alongside a lot of other things that are happening. But to me, the concern that I hear from the historical African camp, to me, doesn't match the continental camp. And this is what I can't understand. Oh, you're live on Genesis.
Let me turn it down.
Yeah.
Have you heard that Israel wants to join the African Union?
Really? No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah. And I sat down and thought about it. And I said, no, you don't want to join, you want to run this thing. But who's helping you run this thing? Why would you even get up to wanna be? Why, what's in it for you? Why you? And I'm like, oh yeah, well, you know what I mean? I can switch on the radio, hear you guys talk, or whatever it is, the community, whatever that is, all these Pan-Africans, whatever that is, they're so solidly black and all of that, whatever that is. The Marcus Garvey, I can recite the book backwards, whatever that is. But what matters and what really concerns, you don't talk about it. Never do you touch on it. And so I sat down and I had a look, and I said to myself, well, hang on a second. I wonder if these people are steering this juggernaut into the wall on purpose. Steering this reparations argument into the long grass, into the never. Win the people's trust like a politician and deliver nothing. And then complain and bitch and wail and moan and lament about it's the white man, it's this and it's white supremacy. Another nonsense that is pushed to the hilt. And not one person I ever hear sit down and think, let me think this through. You know how it feels when you can see clearly. It makes you feel like a bit of an alien. When you start reciting your times table, do you make these, can you really do this? Or are you going nuts? Because everybody else can't see. They can't repeat. They're just full of repeaters, repeating the nonsense. They won't pick up a book and do their research outside of the kind of things that make them feel fuzzy and cool inside.
Okay, Reese.
And then they push up a black supremacy.
Okay, Reese, let me just ask you quickly. What is your view? When we talk about reparations, what do you think is really meant? I don't know. Reparations. I mean, you ask for reparations, but at the same time, I hear money being talked about as well. So, reparations and compensation seems to be two different animals, really, if you think about it. Compensation. Well,
I mean, there's a dictionary definition, but basically what it is making you whole. If somebody's injured you, you're to be made whole. Now, how are you to be made whole? Who is to be made whole? But I listen to the black community, all of these people with all these names and the fancy dress, nonsense. The Pan-Africans. This is not a Pan-African issue. The reparations is specific to certain people, not for everybody. But it's Pan-African business.
Yeah, but the Pan-Africans have made it their issue.
It's got nothing to do with reparations.
Yeah, but don't forget, it is in a sense because the Pan-Africans has made it their thing because of they are African Americans and they were involved in the slave. Their parents were involved.
No. Hold your horses. Do you know what ADOS is?
Who?
ADOS.
No, I don't know what that is.
See, I just know because what?
So what is ADOS?
African American Descendants of Slaves, CDOS, Caribbean.
That's a recent thing.
Descendants of Slaves.
It's a recent organization, mate. But what I'm saying is, right? When
hold your horses.
Okay, go on.
Hold your horses. This is scholarly backed.
Yeah.
You see, you have to have an argument. You have to know what's gone on, who it pertains to. It's not kumbaya everybody. It is specific. You must know your argument. You must build an argument. It must be solid. It must have the data to back it.
But slavery is...
These people are just talking rubbish.
Okay.
I tell you something else. I think it's this month. They call it Marcus Messiah month, and they go marching down, banging drums, feeling good, kumbaya, and shagging and smoking weed, whatever it is they do.
Hey, careful.
But I bet if I was to go down there and have a look, I bet you would not see one banner saying MMR fix black boys.
Yeah.
I bet you don't find any cause pertaining to the welfare of black people, apart from this drive this juggernaut into the war nonsense.
Well, you see, you might see it as nonsense, but let's be fair. Let's be fair, because I mean they can defend themselves today. Whoever you're referring to, they know. But what I'm saying to you is not nonsense to them who feel that they need to be compensated for the fact that they've been used, their parents have been used, and everything like that over centuries. And
they're not marching for that.
That's what they're marching
for. They're not marching for that.
No? What are you not marching for that then?
That's a dummy function, brethren.
What?
That's a dummy function. That's to make you think. That's to make you sit down. And if you're like-minded, you're going to join in the party. That's not real.
So what
real is real.
What is real? Go on, tell me what is real, Mike. I can't understand.
Real is tangible. Where is the essay? Where is the argument? When was it published last year, this month, this year, this month? Where is the reminder? Where is anything? When did it go to Parliament? When was it petitioned for? When did they have this conference? When did they do it? The only one I know who's done something, and I haven't read his work, is Billy Beckles. That's the only one I know who's done something. And I had to put my beady eye over him to find out what he's doing. But over in this country, that marching business is a joke business. That's not real. That's not real. That's a bongo. You know what I mean? That's not real at all.
Hold on. Let me just say this, right, Reese? Okay, I'm going to be a devil's advocate to coin.
Don't be the devil.
It's coin an old phrase.
If you want to, go ahead.
No, ear up now.
No, you go ahead. I'm not doing it.
See, okay. To tell me that it's not real, and you can't specify how it's not real. Why have you come to the conclusion that our claim for reparatory justice, for being compensated for the fact that you're living off our back? You understand what I'm saying to you? You know, we were taken against our will. You know, for me, it's just that somebody got their ass kicked, as far as I'm concerned. But they say you can't tell me that's not real. You can't.
I think you're misunderstanding me.
Yeah.
There is a genuine argument for reparations. But that lot with the bongo drums and all of that stuff is not doing it.
Well, this is what I'm talking about.
And they're not supposed to be doing it.
Well, let's not talk about.
That's an illusion.
Well, let's not talk about the bongo thing. Let's talk about the legitimate argument.
All right. So we move away from the Kenta learning. And we can point this scholar, that scholar, and we're not going to criticize none of them because we black. You know what I mean?
Hello? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what that's about. The legitimate argument is there.
Yeah.
But it needs no movement, no nation rises beyond its scholars and philosophers. That's number one.
Yeah, call back.
You have to have intelligence and academia behind it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be challenged by academia, solicitors and lawyers. And another thing that really cracks me up, and I've mentioned it to that lot on the other Galaxy Radio, but I feel it anyway. Dr. Beckford made a program called The Empire Pays Back. Boy, they hate that. They will never mention it. That's a start right there. You can use that data. That's a brilliant start right there. Include that. They don't want to hear it. You know, it's a bother for me. Leave that alone. If you mention Jews, Zionists, I'm like, shut up, right? Slavery always happened. Let's be straight. It's always happened. What was different about this chattel slavery was color-coded and invented by the Jew. That's a fact. That's a fact. They wrote about and brag about it. And the funny thing is, they love waxing lyrical. right? They never think they're going to get caught. Look at Epstein. They never think they're going to get caught. They never think you're going to be smart enough one day, smart enough to read a book and say, I say you feel, really? Is that what you did? Really? Oh, listen to this text. Oh, that's also about the dog shift. Who do they think what we did? And the people want to say, white man, white man, white man. It's the white man, it's the white man, white man, white man.
So hold on a minute, Joe. Hold on a minute. But isn't the Jews white?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ones I see on television is.
Okay.
My eyes don't fool me, brethren. They're melanin recessive.
Have you ever heard of a footballer named Ross Barkley?
No, I'm not.
Kieran Trippier.
No, I'm not into football, brethren.
Okay.
No.
If you look at them, they look white.
But they are white. They've got no melanin, man. Melanin recessive. That's what we're talking about here. They're of the same. They're of the same.
No, you're saying too much. You're saying too much.
No, hold on. They're of the same ethnic universe.
Listen, you said you don't know them.
Yeah, I do know them.
You don't follow football, and you're saying too much.
No, I'm. You're trying to make a distinction between whether the Jews are white. I'm saying that they are white.
You're not listening to me. You're telling me.
My eyes. My eyes can't. My eyes don't deceive me, brethren. My eyes don't deceive me.
Well, unfortunately for you, they do.
No, they don't.
I'm trying to explain to you. See?
Okay, go on.
This is how you.
Go on.
Listen.
Go on.
When someone's trying to tell you something, a teacher, you don't tell them if you haven't got the data.
Okay.
You wait, you sit there, and you hear the explanation. You say, "Really? Oh, where can I compare that? That sounds a bit wild, a bit on the wild side for me. That's a stretch." You say something after you hear the data. You don't do that.
Okay.
You don't do that. You shut down the argument. No one can hear what I've got to say.
No
one knows what I've got to say. You say your eyes can't deceive you.
That's right. You know.
And I'm telling you they can.
Well,
easy.
This is okay, and I want you to show me.
Easy.
I want you to show me now how has my eyes deceived me.
Okay, that's simple. That's not hard. That's not hard.
Go ahead.
There's so many different ways, but let me remind people, I don't know if you remember, there was a program about black people who were in this country from centuries back. And I think it was the halotype, the African halotype, that Jew that resides in a lot of white people. And they found out there was a cluster of them in Leeds. They thought it was like a family. You know what I mean? You know, basically, you know, your ancestry really is African. So they got this cluster of guys from Leeds, and they said, we want you on the program. Now, they look white. Right? They look white. And they would come on the show. Right? Secondly, there's a documentary with a black guy. The black guy was so, you know, pro-black. They're going to go to Africa, West Africa, but first they want to get their DNA. And he's black. Quote-unquote black. Turns out, well, you had a type of African is Italian. He was crossed. And one of them African tribes out there in the West adopted him, to make him feel good. Now you would say, well, he looked probably Caribbean to me. Or he looked like, but your eyes can deceive you easily. Looks is deceiving. You've heard of that.
Hold on. One minute. It can't deceive me if the criteria for white is laid down. You see, and if I'm looking at somebody, I don't need no intellectual aerobics to tell me what I'm viewing, because I may not even call it in terms of what you may call it intellectually. If I see a man that's less melanin than myself, right, I would say directly he is, and I would term it as white, because I'm black, bro.
Now you said something earlier on. I was trying to really back in.
What?
Right? Because I want clarity on what you said.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you say things I don't think you think it through.
Go on. What did I say?
Now you were saying something about melanin recessive.
That's right. Yeah.
So I would like to ask you: are you saying recessive? That means there is no melanin in white people?
No, I never said. Don't try to catch me with that one, Bridget. I never said there's no.
I'm not trying to get you into that. I clarity.
Yeah, but everybody.
Recessive means what?
Let me settle it. Let me settle it for you. Everybody.
Melanin recessive means what?
All right. Everybody has melanin, but it's the degree of melanin. That's why I say melanin recessive, to describe what we call white people, brethren.
Why did you say recessive?
Because it's less than the amount. It's less. It's recessive. They have melanin, but they have it in small.
Hold on. Let me say this.
What's happened to you, man?
Either there's a dictionary in that studio,
Why?
or you got a computer.
Why?
So
No, I can't, because I can't do that at the moment.
Anyway, I don't want to get into a word battle with you. It's not about a word battle with you. It was about reparations and making whole and making the argument and so forth. And I was telling you that Jews created slave trade, color-coded slave trade, right? And how they boasted about it. And you then said, "Oh, but you're right."
Yeah.
That's what, because I could see the deliberate pointing at one people, but letting off another. And you said, but they're right. They may look right. But I've just explained to you, and they don't call themselves white, by the way. You do know that.
I know that. Because
why do you think they do that?
Because
and why is it? And another thing, because I'm trying to put out a lot of information to make you guys think, right? Why is it you hear these? I've heard them. You name them, right? The big top boys out there, all of them make videos, be in school, all of them say the same thing, right? And little me can sink their ship easy. Why is it now they're pushing out that Israel is Northeast Africa?
Yeah, well, that's another story for another.
Do you see how these people can feed these people and say those lines for me, please?
Yeah, but
and then we can get in the EU and the AU and run it, because they're not going to be no equal partner there. No. They've been infiltrating a lot of these, picking them up 1.
Yeah.
What they do, the people who claim to be fighting operations, you got to start there. But they won't talk them. And then they say, oh, Zionist Jews. I'm like, really? So the Bolsheviks were the most mass killers in World War II.
Well, let's turn the word of reparation now. We're talking about this is what I'm saying. Yeah, we're talking about compensation here. You see what I'm saying? We keep mixing it with a reparation. And you said it's repair, to fix something. So we don't need to march to I don't want to put my opinion in it, but
I to make whole. I never let you do it.
Yeah, make whole, repair, fix anything. That's what some definition says about repair. If you broke something, you repair it. You fix it. So,
what you got to understand is, there are ways in which you ask. There are ways in which you get things. If you go to the post office, right, and you just walk to the counter, you're going to meet some trouble if you think you can just walk past the queue, right? So therefore you need your academics. How do you formulate this argument? What's solid about the case for reparation? Why is it still viable today? What markers can we say today, and historically we can say are an effect and a cause of any situation we see today? Why is it my voice is never heard? Why is it I am censored? And I can speak for myself. Why is it I'm censored? I'm even censored on your own here.
The reason why your voice is never heard is because you refuse to go on a radio station, mate. That's the reason why. The reason why your voice is never heard because you refuse to go on a radio station.
Come
and join it. I've never heard you like a pilot on a radio station. You don't want your voice to be heard. Otherwise, you join a radio station, surely.
I've done it before.
Yeah, but nobody knows about that. Well, I mean, that's not so the reason why your voice is not heard.
They're up to me. I'm hard hitting. And I actually go out there to try and get the people. And that's enough for them to say we don't want to hear you.
That's right. So the reason why you don't hear your voice, not because nobody's gagging you, you just don't want to make that move to go on a radio station, brethren.
I don't know what you mean.
I'll tell you what I mean. You could come down here and you can join this radio station, can't you? You can have your own show.
You guys can't afford me, number one.
You see, it's something different now. You're going into a different thing. So it's not the reason why we don't hear you is not because anyone's trying to gag you, brethren. You just refuse to go on the station without being paid. Correct?
Listen, in me out. Whatever it means, right? It's not to palaver. It's not to do the white, black, race-baiting rubbish. It's information, data, things you ain't even heard about. I remember one time I told you about this out of Africa thing. And that's Charles Darwin, right? Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that. Somebody's like, oh, we talked about it. And I'm like, talked about what? Give them the page number so they know directly you talked about it. When I give you something, it's going to research it. And I thought someone else have to say that to everybody.
Oh, so you're now...
If you only see things in the binary, oh, it's black, white, you're missing the point.
So now you're saying that we don't come from Africa then? Is that what you're trying to conclude? If Darwin... If out of Africa is Darwin's concept.
Yeah.
Hold on. This is what you say. This is your opinion, mind you. Right? It's your opinion, brethren. So, hold on. So you're now against so many scholars who have now conceded to the out of Africa paradigm.
It is a theory. You do know that too, right?
Well, what you're saying is a theory, brethren. So we have to choose between the two. We have to choose between the two. Your theory and high scholars.
My theory.
Well, you just told me it's not. You say it was the Darwin. So I asked you a question. Is the Darwin theory true? If you say, I don't know it as a Darwin theory. You tell me how did out to Africa. Darwin never mentioned the word Africa, right? He didn't mention.
Have you never read anything from Darwin?
I've read loads of things from Darwin. He never mentioned Africa.
All right,
he mentioned Africa, but he says that he wasn't the one that brought that concept, brethren.
Well,
the concept of Africa, out of Africa, you have a whole heap of African scholars and a lot of Africa, and even white scholars now are in agreement that all humanity is from Africa. Now I want to ask you: are you of the agreement that humans come from Africa?
Well, the evidence that they've produced to say so tells me no.
Oh, so you're not in agreement. So where the hell do they come from then, brethren?
Pardon?
Where the hell do they come from? Where does humans come from then? Don't tell me Asia.
I don't have a concrete theory on it. What I do know, you're listening, bro. You learn a lot when you listen. What I do know is the out of Africa theory was created by Charles Darwin.
Well,
what I do know is William Hanson, who found Lucy, the 46 fragment of bones, that they make a full model, hairy model, and they put in it, and so that's the first woman, is nonsense.
Well, we're not going to have that argument today, brethren, because we're going to be. It's going to be
an argument.
No, we're going away from it because there's no way is anyone able to defend that because we're not going to be on that tip at the moment. We don't want to be dragged around that road. What we're talking about here is the reparation, brethren.
Yeah.
Right?
And
the need for reparation, and we want to know what it is.
Well, I've said it already. Reparation refers to making one whole for an injury.
Right. And so what's happening in the community now is that there's a march on. That's what I'm trying to relate the thing to. And the reasons for that march to be paid, reparations, is it to be repaired or is it to be compensated? Is it about both?
Well, I mean, if you fell off your motorbike as it was somebody else's fault and they hit you and you're in hospital,
yeah.
Well, you're going to get healed. I suspect maybe you got insurance, maybe it's the other person's insurance, but you're going to get compensation because it was their fault that you are in the condition that you are in and you are taken away from your work or whatever the case may be. In terms of those of us from the Caribbean who have been used as a fodder class, if you will, then it is for us to one day grow up and historically put your markers down to say, well, number one, this couldn't have happened if it wasn't for this. These people did this to us. Secondly, these people are taking our birthright. They are calling themselves Hamilton Semitic. When did that happen? And who did that? And why was it done? This is, again, offending us. So not only did you enslave us, not only are you on record as being the worst of the enslavers, another thing they won't address, when the truth and the books are found about what you boasted and bragged about, everybody else is Semitic, but you're not Semites. You have nothing to do with having to Semitic at all.
So are they marching to the wrong door?
Yes, I said that. They're driving this juggernaut. It's a worthy juggernaut.
So
it can feed a lot of people. But that lot, with all the fancy dress and the bongo drumming and, all the outward expression, where's the paper? Where's the tangible writing to say, well, yeah, I'm sure some of them have newspaper and card. Every year, it should have it. There should be a website. It should be everything you need to know, and an A to Z 101 on why it's solid. And then it should be to your MP, your local MPs. I mean, there's so much ways this could really be done. But I could see from time, certain people are just hustlers. They're not nothing. They hustling the people, and Mozart was black, everybody was black, oh, for God's sake, you know what I mean? Oh, did you know we were the greatest inventors on the earth? And I'm like, how old you are horses, son? Some of these things you're claiming were invented, they were already invented. They may have made improvements, but stop it. Slow your roll, son. You don't need to lie about something.
Well, you know what?
You never need to lie about anything. Right, if you're honest and you've been injured, just tell the story, man. That's enough.
You know, my concern as well is the disparity between the continental African and the historical African. I don't see the continental African looking at it, because they've never organized a march in any of the cities that their embassies are in. They've never backed any of it.
Can you define what you mean by continental and fundamental? I'm not sure what you mean with these African terms.
Continental Africa means they're from the continent, innit? And
you mean the people who actually born on that land?
Yeah. Continental African, or what we call the contemporary African. Sorry, contemporary African.
Oh, you mean the makeup ones? We keep talking about how they're African.
No, that's the historical African. You see what I'm saying to you? So the historical African, which is the diasporan African, right, is not in sync with the contemporary continental African, because you know what they call the diaspora? The diaspora, as far as the continental African is concerned, is the Africans that left the continent 50 years ago and are still in touch, and they're sending the money back to them and providing that exchange of money. So the continents now would recognize them as the diaspora, not the diaspora of 500 years ago. They said,
let's cut it short. I knew what you're saying, and what I don't get, it's the bad education, and it's the kind of stuff that you hear on these community radio stations. It's nonsense upon nonsense, layer upon nonsense, with a sprinkle of nonsense. Nobody's done any work. Let's repeat. Number one, if you're in the Caribbean, you're complete new people.
Yeah.
Right? You're petri dish people. Get over it. Right? It happened. Get over it. If you want to bathe yourself in, I don't know, shea butter and eat jollof rice and even settle on the continent, good luck with it. You know what I mean? Wish you will.
Yeah.
But you are completely new people. Therefore, you have a completely unique argument. You are special people, in other words.
Yeah, with a repatriation.
Because you're the only people that have been extracted from the landmass and been petri dished with. To the point that you don't even speak your own language.
That's right.
That everything about you has been told to you about you. And then we don't even know that when we've got scholars, that we accept them scholars because who taught them? And what were they given to keep us where we are? There comes a time when you grow up and you say, you know what? Hey, I ain't scared of watching Frankenstein. Sure, let me sit up on my own and get my popcorn. It's funny. When you're little, you're terrorized, but when you're older, you're like, there's nothing to this. And a lot of these kind of cocoons, there's nothing to them.
Well,
people call out some big name and sing them right now. Or the crap they've been talking.
But you got to remember, it's not as simplistic as that. You got to remember, if you go back to the origin of these, what do you call it, these little satellites, sugar plantation satellites, what the Europeans had, right? Of that, when they were first colonized or taken to that plantation in Jamaica, they still retained their cultural memory. So they still retain their cultural memory. When they took about the very first slaves to be taken from Africa, not even from Africa, but even from the Iberian Peninsula, because they didn't all come from Africa. They were taken to the sugar plantations. They still retained the first generations, still retained their culture, brethren, and their language.
That's irrelevant to me.
No,
because I tell you why it's irrelevant.
Why?
Right? Because whether it was 2 generations, 3 generations, 4 generations, they retain their culture, their dances, and all the rest of it. You don't have it now.
Right.
And it only takes time and consistent terrorism to erase your new people.
Yeah.
You gotta get that.
I get that.
You're British people with a unique identity and a solid argument.
Right, but they refuse to accept that. They refuse to accept that. This is the whole
refuses to accept
You
it.
have some people from those islands, diaspora, refuse to accept that change. You know, there's a lot of people. This is the whole thing about Marcus Garvey and the Back to Africa movement, the Rastafari, and then you know, I mean, they want to repatriate.
You know what?
They want to repatriate.
Some people actually have gone to some of these countries. You want to do that, you do that. I'm not stopping anybody. If they want to go to Africa and make a life there, go on. I mean, some people, the stress of and the you know, this life is, you know, it wears on your psyche.
You make me laugh.
With some of the politicians that we're dealing with, local and the tricks that they play. You know what I mean? You know, it can stress the person out.
Reason making me laugh, man, but you're not stopping them. But if they want a repatriation, you're not stopping them, are you? No.
Yeah. Listen, some people are actually living in Demona, Israel. You know the nuclear site? That's where black people put their backside. I'm like, really, dude? Why would you even want to go there?
Yeah.
Why would you want to go there? Number one, God said, don't go there.
So
don't make no place called Israel. So that's in defiance of the Creator anyway.
So back to the reparation now. So they're claiming, this is the claim that how I understand it, been made, that reparatory justice is what they're saying. That's what it's all about. We need you, the government, to acknowledge your part in slavery, you know, and your continual living off of the back of that, and then our continual bottom of the pile existence in society.
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm sure it has to put it to a lot of people, but you just got to identify who you are. So calling yourself an African, you're not. You're not. Right? That's number one. So you have to identify, who am I then? Unfortunately, you're a Caribbean descendant of slaves. Right? Then you can go into that. Now, who made you that?
Yeah.
For what purpose did they do that? Can we get that through people's names and dates? Can we align that with a synagogue in Barbados? The one that's 1600, and the one in Jamaica, and the Curaçaos, and look at the islands when they were running it. And we can look at the Jewish pilot who helped Andrew Jackson defeat the English. Can we get into some of that?
So
to find out how powerful and effective this destruction of a people or recreation of a people was. Yet today they're going like, it's them in problem.
So
and not good then.
Have they a legitimate claim?
They ain't getting stabbed on the streets.
Yeah, but have
it's
they?
Your children.
Yeah, but have they got a legitimate claim?
I still got a legitimate claim.
The reparation movement, brethren. Because number one,
I've said it already. I'll say it again. The argument, there isn't a legitimate argument to be had. Those who are pushing it and running around bongo drumming it and that, they ain't dealing with it. They've got their juggernaut, they're leading the march, and they've got this juggernaut and crashing it into the wall, into the never. You're never going to get none from that. They don't represent it properly. They've not done enough research. They are shy of the truth. You cannot be shy of the truth.
And what is the truth?
Sometimes it's hard for people to hear it. That's what you've got to say.
What is the truth?
Transatlantic slave trade was created by the Jew.
We don't care. We don't care who's created it by.
Hold on a minute. If you want reparations, you need to. There's a crime committed then. So we need to know who did it.
Yeah, but the Arabs done it before them.
Hold on. This is another thing that you lot do, and I've told you guys already.
What?
Right? Who do you think was behind that?
Oh, go on, tell me the Jews. Come on, man. I mean, I know you're.
All right. Listen, I don't make the websites. I don't write the books. I find them. I read them.
So you're saying
have to do something yourself.
You're saying the Jews.
I can point you in the. Listen, brother. I can point you in the direction. Okay. You can look yourself. I've got nothing to do with it at that point. But, see, you can't say I.
I'm of a different view, brethren. So how about?
You can be of a view that you want. You're asking me to tell you something truthfully, and I'm telling you.
And I heard, and I'm saying to you now, we're looking at the legitimacy of the claim for reparations. It's because claim for reparations that don't work. Claim for compensation. See, so they got the two muddied together.
The reparations doesn't the word reparations doesn't encompass financial compensation.
Why? In dictionary it doesn't say that.
Sorry?
It doesn't say that in the dictionary, brethren.
In the dictionary?
Yeah. Doesn't talk about compensation. I looked it up before. I didn't see no correlation to compensation.
Did you see repair?
Pardon?
Did you see repair? Restoration. Did you see any of that?
No, yeah, repair, damage, like, repair,
restoration, any of that?
to fix. That's what it meant. I'm looking at the meaning of the word, brethren, before
I'm telling you, did you see any of what I just said?
No, I don't see no correlation to no compensation, brethren.
Well, okay, have a car, crash your car, try and repair it with that money.
No, man, that's not, that just, that's...
You need some restoration on your mantelpiece or something like that. Try to do that with that money.
Remember what I'm trying to show you. That's not what the understanding is. I'm saying when I want to repair, when I want to repair something, I'm going to fix it, right? If we're talking about reparation, we're marching. Who do we want to repair us? Who do we? What have they got to come and fix us or something? I don't understand.
No, you don't. So let me try and break it down to you, because I don't know what the marching is about. Because I thought that we shall overcome days done. We're living in a technological age now. We can actually do this thing. We've got scholars. We've got real readings. We've got real stuff that we can actually tangibles that we can say, hang on a minute. We can build a proper argument. That lot ain't doing it. I told you, right? So when it comes to repairing or reparations, there is a solid argument for it. I just haven't got the time to write it down myself. And maybe this some scholar, maybe Beckles, has done a good job. I don't know. I know Beckford has done a good job with his show. But it doesn't seem to get incorporated in these movements. They seem to conveniently forget that. Just like they forget that Jews actually created the transatlantic. I said created.
So
I said created.
Yeah, so you are in agreement.
They made it color-coded.
Yeah, but you are in agreement
and
then.
And it's from a specific people.
Yeah, okay. Fair.
The same people that they are trying to say they are.
Okay, fine.
And now they want to rule the landmass.
Okay, fine. I'm going to stop you.
So if you want to go in war, being fought by these people who go around claiming to be you.
Yeah, but
by saying, and you know you changed that name.
Yeah, but...
Would you like to know who changed the name?
Well, not really, because...
I gave it to them.
Yeah, well, because really... Would
you like to know?
We're going away...
If someone stole from you, right? If someone stole from you, would you like to know somebody said, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm going to steal your name.
You're going to tell me
right now.
You're going to come and tell me it's the Jews, man. So at the end of the day, I've already got the thing, yeah? But what I'm trying to show you...
Hold on a minute. You see, your level of learning is as far as you want to go. Somebody might want to... Somebody might... Listen. You don't know that anything. Somebody might want to read Joseph Greenberg's book.
It's not a place...
They might want to know what the scam was and how it went down. They might want to know that.
I understand that, but this is not...
You should not silence people from learning something.
No, listen, this it's not the time and the place. It's not that kind of show, Reese. Crying out loud. Hey. Don't you get it? All I want to do... No, but all I want to do...
Universal Declaration of
yeah, but all I want to establish here...
I'm going to to teach.
Yeah, but what I want...
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, fine, but what I want to establish here, and let someone else come in now, because we've been on for a while, is the rights and wrongs and the meaning of reparations. So you are in agreement that there is a case for reparations.
There is a case to be had,
right,
sure.
Fine. So let's leave it at that for now, and let other people have their say. So you're in agreement that there is a case for reparation, but it's going about the wrong way.
But wrong people. The right case. They ain't doing it. That's a funky fake thing.
Okay.
What they're doing.
All right. Okay. Thank you for that. Enough respect. Bless up. You're in tune to Genesis Radio, the People's Talk Show, and the numbers to interact are 0779 542 9442. Sorry, 9449. I'm thinking about the other old number. Let me give you that again one more time, and that's 0779 542 9449. We'll bring it into the studio. You're live on Genesis.
Oh, hello, Heru, and I'm glad there's a talk show today. Now I'm talking about the reparations thing. Now, and this is it leads to this thing. Now, when the Japanese were, and this is when the Japanese had that 2 nuclear bombs released on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, atomic bombs, and they had their reparations paid off by the American corporations, and the corporations who make guns and everything, they got millions and millions and millions and millions of money. England make guns as well. They got millions and millions and millions of money. The corporations, England, there's English corporations as well. Now, the Native American Indians, there's only a few left, but they got paid off. But there's only a few of them left there, the casinos and everything. So reparations are must here for what has happened over the years of, of what I've been taught in, about what has happened in Africa and what has happened, and taken their names away, taken their languages away, taken their traditions away. It is a very, very bad thing that has happened.
Yeah.
And however, it's about one of the things they're saying. It's about compensation. Secondly, when, for example, I believe, this is what my assumption is of compensation. It's about, basically, when a black man says, for example, this should happen in this country, it will happen in this country. For example, many other things. Understand what I mean? So they will have more power than they would. They would have less power now.
I'm sorry to cut you. All of that didn't make an ounce of sense, Bertrand, because you're saying to me that when black man says something's supposed to happen in this country, it should happen. I don't understand. I don't.
No, I mean basically the thing is, all these things that are happening now. There's black crime. There's black, all these things that are happening, and basically they're taking away the funding. They're taking away everything. Basically, when the black man says, "Well, no, can't do this. Nothing without us, it will happen." When something happens to a black person, for example, someone causes a black person, after reparations they have, they will go straight in. It would make big news. It would make big news. Yeah? This is my example. An example here. E.g., when the one brother, presenter, King Lion, plays something about the about the Israelis, and I believe that, I have my own different things about it. But look what the Israeli Speaking Up community did. It went all on the news. Everyone on YouTube, everything, it just blew up, on YouTube saying, "Oh, you should get gun for this, you should get things for this." But when somebody says something about black man, nothing is heard.
Yeah.
So when reparations are being done and dusted, the black people can go more forward in this. They will say, "Well, none of this music, like, more man to get more money, or hurting a black person, or doing this or doing that." No, it's not going to happen. It's what we're going to say, and then they'll move forward and all these things. But there's another problem here that I've seen. There's a group called Third Generation, and this is like, they've come into this reparation march. Now, the Third Generation, however, I don't know anything about them, but there were some white people involved in the other platform. There was some white people. I didn't listen to it. What I'm saying is, a question I'm asking now is, this about reparations. Why are they suddenly getting involved? Yeah, and then are they going to push a different agenda?
Hold on a minute. Let's get some clarification here. You said three things that I'm really interested in. You said that the who was paid out. You said two people were paid out. The Hiroshima
and the
Indians were paid out. I've never heard of that. They received compensation. I can't really comment on that. Because if you haven't given me any times and dates when they were compensated and how were they compensated. Like, I know that the Mau Mau was compensated. But I don't know of the Hiroshima and the Indians, because they're still on reservations. You get me? So at the end of the day, and then now you're saying that this third generation thing. I've never heard of these people. I mean, it's the first time I've ever heard.
Basically, hold on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me think. The third generation. The three things I'll clarify is relating to a caller. It's a very thin caller. I don't know. I don't know who said it, but there was one on the one time in 2013, which was the Sunday service show, which had from 10 until all the way to the morning. And he said that there was the Japanese had their compensation, they had their things, and now they're making their robots and everything. So everything's been with them. The Native American Indians, they have their casinos now. You know, they have their things now, but there's only a few left of them. They're saying that we need this for the black people. The Israelis were being paid off, and they're still being paid by the Germans for what that has been done.
Yeah, well,
and basically, that's what I hear through another caller. Now, unfortunately, my internet search, I should search on the internet about these things, or maybe they won't give it out because they're taking bits and pieces away from the internet because of this European Union and silly idiots. They're taking bits and pieces away. So the second thing is about this group. Do you know that this climate change group wants to come into these reparations march? And they are white people. And I've been talking to people off there saying that what are these people doing in this march, and what are they going to do once they get the reparations done? Basically, it's like this. Are they going to push a different agenda on them? It's like me, Heru. For example, you're homeless, right? Got no home. You got no place, you know, you're homeless, you're in the cold. Someone comes up to you and says to you, you know what, I want the car, you know, you can come to my house, it's a big, big place. He says to you, this man, yeah, that you never know that. He tells you, my name is Peter Owakwe, or John Owakwe, or whatever. He's an African man, but he says to you, this African man says to you, I've got a big, big, big villa, yeah? I've got my wife and children, but you can stay here. But, you know, afterwards, you're going to say to him, what is the purpose, okay, Mr. Oroke, that you're staying, I'm going to stay in your villa. And however, he says, wait. He says to you, wait. And then he tells you to do something for him. He tells you, you don't know what he's going to tell you to do. Whether he's going to put you to sell drugs, whether he's going to do something to you, whether he's going to, you know, say another thing to you, you don't know. So basically, you have actually bent down to him. And this is exactly like the third, this group, this climate change group now. They get your reparations heard, but then they're going to say to them, oh, hold on a minute, we've got you, now you must bend down to me.
Well,
I don't want to go
listen, Bertrand, I've seen clips of the reparation march on YouTube, and I've never seen any white folks in there. I mean,
no, what they're saying is that apparently, if I heard this right, that this group, third generation, or two white people, they have come on that other community station, and they have been interviewed. And basically, I missed that show, and it was on the Sunday morning. I would have told them, why are you here? What is the purpose of you being here?
Hold on a minute.
And what is the purpose? I didn't.
Yeah, okay, hold on a minute. One sec. Now, are you saying that white people shouldn't be included? Because I would think that if you want your numbers boost, it's obvious by the fact that you haven't got enough signatures to have the debate in Parliament. I don't even know what debate they're going to have in Parliament, whether they're going to be paid compensation or not. That may be the debate. But the numbers are not there. So if somebody wanted to swell your ranks, like the Earth movement, the planet movement, we call them there, which to me, if that's going to swell your rank, your numbers, why not? Why wouldn't you want them there?
Well,
since you haven't got enough numbers.
There's a problem here. Yeah, this is exactly with me, and this is exactly with silly me as well. I was in a meeting, and this is exactly what I'm entertaining with me. I said, right, you know the issues that I've got. I said, you know what? If I was to get somebody, for example, I would march with the LGBT community. They would get disabled things. They would help everything. But you know what? You want somebody said to me, always they've been saying to me, they said that what about if they ask you to do something for them? Because they're not going to ask you to make you a cup of tea. They want to ask you to do something for them. Now, however, what would happen if they said, all right, Berchak, I got you this, I got you this, I got you this. Now I want you to do something for me. Yeah? And you know what that's going to be, which is not going to be appropriate to say, but you know what these people are. Because we don't live in your days. So in your days, things were more better. It was more, thing. But now, things have gone. So if somebody asks you something, most of the people, they're going to want you to do something for them. It's not in your days now. We're not in those days anymore. We're in a different age of age. And I've tried to say this to people. Why is it that these people have come there? And I wish, if there's any caller that can back it up, I wish I could have tuned in to that show, and I would have said to these two white people, why are you involved in this bunch? Are you going to ask the black people to do something for you? What agenda are you going to push?
Well, so are you saying that they were on a radio station, a pirate station? Is that what you're saying? This show?
Not pirate station,
huh?
Sorry, not pirate. Don't say pirate, say community.
Well, community radio station. So you heard this on a...
Black. No, I heard that from somebody that they were on the other community station, which has a lot of talk shows as well as you used to. Now they have more talk shows, but they are on that community station. They were the one that was based in Sierra Leone here. They were there, allegedly.
Oh, so
they were there,
and
but I couldn't listen to that show.
Were they, and they were members of the LGBT? Is that what you're saying?
No, not
okay.
LGBT.
Right.
Third generation.
Third generation. So
right.
You said the station, they hosted these guests on a community station, right? Black Afro Caribbean community station, yeah. And they were there. So you would have said to them that they have no part in. So were they being invited to join the reparation movement?
Well, what I'm saying is, I would ask them, well, all right, you're invited, but what would you demand from the black community after all these things have been put in place? Are you going to ask them to bend down? Are you going to ask them what agenda are you going to push? What things are you going to push on them when they think? Because these groups, allegedly, they've got more members and they got powerful things.
That's what I'm saying.
To get it done.
Powerful lobby,
then
right?
They will ask you to bend down because they got more members and more things, and they will come together and they will be white and black marching. But what are they going to ask after this is going to get, let's say, get done? This is the problem I would have asked, but I didn't listen to that show, and I wish that if someone can clarify it, if they were on that station, then I would be very, very more better, because I would have asked them, now that I'm asking them, if somebody could record this show and send it to this group, what are they going to want in return after that reparations? What are they going to want in return? Because nobody does this for free. They say, Heru, the best things in life are free. It's not free. Nothing comes for free. Nothing comes for free. Yeah, and this should be to stupid me. Nothing comes for free. When I'm being stupid and saying, oh, I don't have a girl, so I need to go to the LGBT community to march about it. I don't have this, I don't have that, so I need to go to the LGBT community, because obviously they're going to want something in return from me. And they're not going to want me to make them a cup of tea. They're going to want me to sell my whole soul to them. So this is what I'm saying.
So basically, what I get to understand of this, that this reparation are just for black people and black people alone, yeah, and they haven't got the numbers. So, what I think a wise leader would want to try and bring other people on board, since they lack the numbers, yeah. But being so specific and so linear when it comes down to who's going to join us in this march, or a march or whatever, then it should only be the ethnic group. But if you're not getting the numbers, 1.3 million blacks in London, if only a little handful are in agreement, and you don't have the skill to bring others on board, then it will fail, right? It's got to, because out of 1.3 million, you got a little handful, a little fringe handful of people.
There's no skill, because I'll tell you this: there are some people that allegedly they are being frightened of listening to this station or listening to that other community. There's been black parents that are frightening their people to not listen to this station. And they get caught, they get pumped. They say that these black community stations, this is what they're saying, that they're pumping up hatred and this and that. No, you're not pumping up hatred. Why would I be sitting here right now, spending all my time? I didn't go to sport. I didn't go to spending all my time right now listening to Galaxy or Genesis, and learning from them, learning what has happened to you people. Whereas in school, I was taught the Greeks were good to their slaves. Can you believe how stupid that is? The Greeks being good to their slaves. There was no such thing as slaves. There was servants. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're going to go back that far, you can also cite the fact that.
No, I was taught like this.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
How can you, as a teacher, say this kind of thing like this? And she used to be the head teacher. The good to their slaves. Can you believe that? All of these words, all of these things that is happening now. You're drinking wine, eating pork, eating pig's meat, and everything. Africans never did that. All your cultures have been taken away. That's what Pablo
but you don't forget, Bertrand, don't forget, even the Bible said, if you're a slave, seek not to be free. Even the Bible's telling you to remain a slave, brethren. That's what it says. That's what it says. That's what it says. That's what it says in Corinthians. If you're a slave, seek not to be free. So it seems that the Bible is in agreement with
what about
slavery.
Hiding those books of Kemet? When that reparation march comes, I'm sure those African books are being hidden somewhere. They're not being burnt, they're being hidden. They've been hid somewhere. So if they've been thingy in the Kemetian, then we need to know about it. That is why African spirituality, one person said African spirituality should be taught in schools as well.
Hold on a minute. No, we don't escape that easy, because when we had people on their knees, if you look at the fresco in the Egyptian pyramids and burial mounds, on the walls you would find representations of people, or the peoples that were around in those times, the communities, and we had everyone on their knees, also with hands tied behind them, bowing in front of the pharaoh, the black pharaoh on his throne. We had the Nubian, even him was on his knees. Then behind him you had the what you call the Asian or the what you call the Jewish one with a long beaky nose. Then you had another representation. At the last you had the Indian representation, and then at the last you had the European with a feather in his hat. He was at the last rung. He was on his knees with hands tied behind his back in front of the pharaoh, the black pharaoh.
Well, what I'm saying,
so,
in the you've been asking the question.
Yeah.
You asked me a question. Why, if they got that skill, they have got skill, but unfortunately, there are some people, some parents, who are being forced feeding the children not to listen to this station, not to sing this station, and there needs to be more things out there. There needs to be more. And one person, I'll give you one person, yeah? His name, he's the manager of this station. D-Way is trying to put his TV station for the first time. That I would like to open my free view or whatever to watch Saxgen TV 24/7, see what is happening, see the drugs that's being pumped into the community, see things. But you know what? It's still not up there because they saying, he's done something wrong.
This is the thing.
We're not doing it.
No.
It's all part of reparation.
No. This is why I disagree with you. Don't. You see, what we're in danger of is people being more of a what you call it, there's a name for it, where you there's no correlation between community issues and reparation. There's no correlation. Community issues are issues of politics, right? So the politics and
it goes with reparation.
No, it does not, because it doesn't.
They've been cutting everything.
So we can't keep bending everything to suit that. See, this is the trouble. We bend everything to suit things, and there's a name for it. I can't remember the name now, but that's what it is. Non sequitur. Non sequitur means that it's nothing to do with the original statement. So, in terms of in society, where you're living in a society, right, where you've decided to live on the same territory, you share territory with other people, regardless of what you might think. That's exactly what you're doing. You're sharing territory. So
I'm not. I'm not.
What?
If you touch one, like let's say, if you touch one of us, for example, CDC.
So where you living, Redrin?
You say to them, if you touch one of us, we're going to touch one of you. It's like that. If you touch, for example, you try to do the same thing to Chinese here. They tried to send SARS, whoever it was, and you know what the Chinese did, the people and all that, and even the army said, you do that again, we call you. You do that again, we're going to touch you back.
Where? Over here?
No,
this is what I'm trying to say.
In China.
No, yeah, but we're talking about here, territory here. We're sharing territory, aren't we? We're not going to...
anything that happens in African, whether it's in London, whether it's in Africa, whether it's a thing, or if you touch one of us,
this is what I'm saying.
We will touch one of you.
Right, yeah, that's all well and good, but I mean, back in the 60s when we were fighting on the streets, brethren, you know, with skinheads, National Front, and all that kind of thing, we settled that, right? And
no, it's covertly done. All the
yeah, but our children, but our children are now moving with the children of the very people who we fought in the 60s. They're bringing them home. They're bringing home their children, brethren. You see,
the system has put out these vaccinations and all these dangerous vaccinations that they're giving the people and everything to Africa, like MR and all these things, you know, and everything that's happening in Africa right now, yeah, to evolve, to things, everything. So imagine what happened, yeah, you say, if you touch one of us, we will touch you, CDC. Yeah, they would have to stop. They would have to say, oh, no. You see, if you, for example, you touch one of the Chinese, yeah, the China said, if you touch one of us, we're going to touch one of you. If you try to destroy our business, we're going to destroy you. We're going to play you by exactly your dollar. And right now, I've been watching the Turkish news and everything of what's happening in China. I think they're very clever people. They're pulling back. This is one power that Mugabe had. He was going to play the people by the dollar. But you know what happened to Mugabe? They did a coup in Zimbabwe, and then they took him off the thing. They did the same to Gaddafi, and look what's happening to Libya right now.
Let's stay on the reparation.
All these are reparations.
Yes, this is it. We can't force that under the guise of reparation, brethren. See, that's a word, that's a buzzword now, and then you can ram anything underneath that buzzword. Oh, that's reparation too. If I climb a coconut tree, oh, that's reparation as well. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you look at as far as you're concerned, right, your idea of reparation is what? What's your idea of reparation?
Basically, obviously, I mean, there's not like they say, and I've been reading up compensation 1, 2, to obviously get out of their lands, get their hands out of their lands, whoever that's in Africa, and give it back to the people, get their hands out of the Caribbean, get their hands out of things, and basically, you know, and IMF and all that, get out of their lands, and that will be the second, and the third will be the when you reparation, whatever you say, not everything, but whatever you say, it will be recognized. For example, all these things that's happening to you lot now, with all this dumbing down by the music, the violence, they all go, basically. And you would get more power, you would get power, you would get things. So, basically, it's something like, if say, for example, you touch one of us, we touch one of you. This is what the Asians do. This is what the Jews do. Look what they did to King Ryan, for example. But if this was happening to a black man, if someone played thing to a black man, It will never happen. It will never happen. Okay. One radio presenter said something about a black person, and he didn't even get himself sacked. He didn't even get sacked from it, and it was a big mainstream station. So there you are.
Okay.
You know?
Well, thank you for your interjection. Yeah, man. Right? Thank you for your interjection.
I'll leave you.
Yeah, respect. Enough respect. Bless up. Okay, you're in tune to Genesis Radio, and it's a People's Talk Show, and that was Bertrack there having his say, but I don't know, I understand the correlation between, and this is a thing that I've been trying to understand for the longest of time. I try to understand the correlation between some of the statements made. It's nothing to do with the statement that's been first made. I can't make a statement like we are enslaved, then turn around and make a statement like to the contrary, which is different from the statement that I've made. So you cannot wrap everything around reparations. This is reparation. I'm going to infiltrate Georgia, all in the name of reparation, or this is reparation too. But what is reparation? See, we're not even clear on that as an ideology. Is it to repair the damage that's been done 500 years ago? So if we're talking about a damage that's been, and it's also included in the generational trauma that we experience, and we as an effect. But how many peoples in their ethnicity has gone through a whole heap of trauma? You know, has been in time immemorial. We have the enslavers of people, imperialistic humans are imperialistic by nature. If a group decides that you want to take over another group, and this is where I'm kind of wondering where what stand to take here. If a group, a particular group, decides that he has enough power to overtake and exploit another group, like we've been exploited through capitalism, then obviously if that group is strong enough and powerful enough, then it's going to do what it's going to do, innit? To the victor the spoils. And so now that group has exercised and flexes its muscle because it has the power to do that, then and are now ruling, then you'd have to say, how are you going to get from that ruling group your justice? Because are they going to relinquish their ill-gotten gains? Are they going to suddenly turn around and surrender their ill-gotten gains and their what do you call it? They're outside of their own countries, right? They're colonized, those that they have colonized. So colonization is another thing. What you need to understand: when somebody colonizes you, their interests are forced on you. Imperialism is the same sort of thing, forcing their own interest. So who has the power to do that throughout the world? America thought she had the power to do that, and she did have the power. So she's a great influence throughout the world. Africa used to have that influence, but now her day has come. She had her day in the sun. Now every dog has its day in the sun. This is how I understand it, without the emotion. You know what I mean? I have to understand it. I have to bring it down to whereby I can, make sense of it. So I thinking, well, this is again my opinion. I don't really want to voice my opinion, so I really want you to interact. Numbers are 0779 542 9449, and I repeat 0779 542 9449. Bring you into the studios, and we're going to come and ask what is reparation, and what is your take on reparation? Is it viable? Is it something that you want to partake in? Is it something that you think that you should have been consulted before that creation of that community or whatever activism that they want to now claim? Is it something that the majority of the 1.3 million blacks want to indulge in? And if not, because really the way I see it, it affects me whether I agree or not, just by the fact that I'm black. I don't even have to agree with it, and it still affects me because they're making claim on the behalf of black people. So whether you want to be involved or not in it, you're automatically involved, because your ancestors, especially you're from the Caribbean, you can't even call it diaspora, because you have to understand what the term diaspora means to the continental African, not to the historical African. because the historical African, to them, they are the diaspora. But the continental African disagrees with that, and they say that you are not the contemporary diaspora, you are the historical diaspora, which there's going to be no new dispensation for you. That's what they said. There's going to be no land, no free land for you. This is what the African Union said in a great debate some years ago. There'll be no free land for you, no new dispensation. You're entitled to, you can get free food, but no free land. And if that's the position that the AU have taken, without the acknowledgement of the Caribbean, CARICOM, who thought that they were the fifth column, they thought at last Africa has recognized her fifth column, but the Africans weren't talking about them to their disappointment. They weren't referring to them as the fifth column. You see what I'm saying? So this is where we have to understand what nature should reparation be taken if the main player is not involved. And the main player was Mama Africa, because that's where all this thing came from. You know, they were taken from Mama Africa. So if Mama Africa ain't the main player, how do we expect to play the game? She's keeping very quiet on the subject. The CARICOM is keeping very quiet on the subject. They've got lawyers. They say they've got lawyers to state their claim. They've got the same lawyers that use, I think, for the Mau Mau reparation and stuff like that. So CARICOM seems to want to act independent of any claim for reparation. At least any claim from the let me see what this text sender has said. Let me see here. What was that today? Let me see. Okay, I sent a text earlier, and the group that has joined the Reparation March is Extinction Rebellion. Okay, right on. Okay, thank you for that, text sender 177. Extinction Rebellion. I've never heard of that group before. See, so I have to go and do some research on that. The text earlier said, let me read that text earlier then. Thank you, 177. Let me read that. Let me read your text out properly. It's a long text there. Yes, Heru. Good to hear you on the airwaves. I have a question. Will reparations repair us? I understand the concept that remedial compensation is demanded for restoration of what was lost during chattel slavery, colonialism and its aftermath. But how do we quantify that? And even if it's quantified, how will it be distributed, so to say? For example, X amount of monies is allocated to a black institution. Will there be direct democracy from the people to decide what it's used for? Apart from the money issue, will reparation heal us historically? Will reparation heal us historically? Will our reparations open the floodgates for other groups to demand recompense for their indentured slavery? I'm not saying that reparations in theory isn't a noble cause, though. To be honest, my opinion is that without real structure and societal change, money and affectation will only get us so far in current state of things. Honestly, if any reparations were granted by European governments, it will go to institutions such as universities and countries, governmental level, and judging by the current behavior of governments and large institutions, what are the chances of that trickling down to ordinary people like us? That's a very ordered text there, which is telling the truth. I mean, I had those concerns myself, as you heard so many times. I've voiced my concerns, and this reparation, this extinction, rebellion. I don't know of these. I must go and read. I think that's what Bertrand was saying, that they were white, and I'm thinking, well, even if they're white, do the reparation committee accept any input from white folks? If to me, that would be moving closer to a relationship, in a sense, because we share the same territory, you see, and because we share the same territory, we can make it uneasy to live. You know, we can make it as uneasy as we like. The fact is that how are we going to live in a with shared territory with people that we're going to cut across and still expect services, still expect to gain, to be recognized within the system, and even though we're opposed to it. So this is what I'm saying. I doubt there's any wisdom in any of this, because this is where you need wise leaders. You don't need rabble rousers, right? You don't want people to wind us up emotionally, right, about the state of the situation. Let me see. I've got another tip. Oh, come here, you. 1 minute. See what this one says. No, I don't even know if that's today's. That's the station talk against Trump. If they are not scared and someone is dead, talk against Putin. And yeah, okay. I'm not even sure that's belong to this show. But so it is what it is. You know, we've got to have a full understanding of this thing. We can't let our emotions run away with us at times. I think really this is when you have people that are traumatized handling your thing and have not dealt with their trauma, you will get traumatized views and traumatized emotions and traumatized feelings, because it is not done. The healing process have not gone through, right? Let's see if that's another one now. We self-refuel our own oppression and destruction. That's that text there. I hope it's for this show. Yeah, so there you are. We fuel our own, even if it's not, it's still good words. We fuel our own destruction. We do. That's where I feel where we're at, really. And this lack of, again, we're supposed to look at the wider picture instead of the narrow picture when it comes down to our call for reparations. Is it something that we all want to do, though? This is the main thing. There was no consultation. They should have done a survey, I believe, before they thought about this. That's why I always call people to fall on their swords. Whoever, that's my opinion again. I don't want to go into my opinion. Right? Let's leave that out for a while. So it's for you now to, so far, I haven't heard much in the way of explaining what, I've heard a big explanation, few explanations of reparations, and some of them match and some of them don't. The text sender was the clearest one on it. So this group called Distinction now, and if it's the same group that Bertrand was talking about, the white group that's joined the ranks of reparation, his fear was that they're going to demand other things from us, maybe an LGBT opening or something like that, you know. Obviously, I can understand the Reparation March not wanting no representation from the LGBT ranks, and that's that is apparent. I don't know if they even, maybe I'm saying it's apparent. I don't know if the committee has ever considered having a block for black LGBTs. They've got a block for this and a block for that, but I don't know if they've got a block that the black LGBTs can be represented there on the march. I'm sure they've got the same feelings that we have. So it's kind of reducing the numbers, you see. Then I understand the morality behind that. Do you sell out just because you want your numbers to the LGBT or the most popular group that can take up your thing? End of the day, the question is, can anyone else? Can any white people, genuine white people, join the ranks of the Liberation March? Will they allow for that? That's never been heard of. But let's see what this one says. Tech Center says, Heru, Extinction Rebellion is the protest group that has been doing large protests with the pink boat in central London and Heathrow. Did the slogan, "We charge ecocide," come from them? Okay. Because they use same slogan, just wondering. That's a point. We charge ecocide. It could come from that group. Because, we have a tendency to plagiarize from people. We're very good at that. I find the historical African here in the UK, London southeast side, Peckham to be exact. They're quite good at plagiarizing. They love to plagiarize other people and then claim it as their own. Ecocide, genocide, that could be a phrase stolen from somebody. Could well be from them. But what I want to know is that group a white group? Could you let me know if that group is a white group? As I do believe, that's what he was trying to say. That the group that was that name was basically white. But does it matter? I don't understand it. Does it really matter if white people? I thought personally, I thought, well, if you're going to get the numbers, maybe appealing to the opposition, the white side, and trying to get them on board would be a good thing, a good cause. But they may not see it like us, who see, an event 500 years ago compared to how many years since the Holocaust. Not that long, but then to go back 500 years, even though the trauma is still apparent to us now through the generational trauma. Maybe we need a medical claim. Maybe a medical claim would stand a better chance than just a claim for compensation. We can put forward a claim for medical compensation because of our trauma. And then the expectations from the community in our state would have to be realigned and looked at again, and the conditions that we're operating under would have to be considered, and we have to be given a title. But I wouldn't want to be walking around with sick on my sleeve with a badge. I'm not giving myself that kind of a badge. One sec. Text sender, yes, it's a white group. They have been in the news and are a powerful lobby group. Right on. You see, they are a powerful lobby group. Have they got any? And I would like to know if they've got any black members in there. And I could maybe see where the blacks would more likely affiliate to. Out of the 1.3 million blacks, they're more likely to support a movement with a powerful lobby than to support a movement with little fringe, little ideas, little, traumatized views. This is the thing. That's why I said that's why we should call on people to fall on their swords. Some of the times, those who invented this thing, and kind of played on people's emotion a little bit, in order to establish an idea. It's not good. You can't play on people's emotions like that. And so it's given to us now to understand things and then try and make sense of it. Remember, I'm talking about this as a event in the community. I mean, you don't walk around blind. And it's been every time you turn on the internet and you're listening to radio over the internet, you've been hearing this coming over the airwaves all the time at you, tugging at your coattail. Only because by default you are involved, because I have a Caribbean passport and I have a British passport. You understand? And I've said it oftentimes, and it looked like the penny's beginning to drop now. We always talk about going back to Africa, but we don't talk about the resettlement program. You heard me say that so many times. And I told you that, as a friend of mine said, Heru, don't mention that, because soon they will be talking about a resettlement program. And no sooner said than done. But you know I've been banging on that for the longest of time. It's always to talk about going back, but I've never heard anyone talk about a resettlement program. How to get your stuff, how to get your citizenship to belong to one of the 54 countries, and what you have to go through, you know what I mean? And your passport's telling you that you are whoever you are, you know. So it's only political. It's not real. It's political. Why they have these definitions of peoples and passports and all that? Because of the nautical law rule by the sea, passport, you know, something like that. I don't want to go into no conspiracy theory now. But the thing is, when you look at it at a glance and you try to make sense of all of this, people are marching to Downing Street, and they are calling on our, playing on our emotions about being enslaved and how our ancestors work. We are under attack. I don't know. To me, you know, if you can, you know, really tell me if that is true, if you feel that's a real thing, that you are being under attack, instead of seeing life as a challenge. You know, there's a choice in it. I can either look at life as a challenge, or I can look at life as though I'm under attack. How would your brain respond to such threats? How would you naturally respond to those threats, innit? If my brain decides that I'm under attack, then it's going to go into defense mode, right? Automatically, without even me having anything to do with it. Because what would happen, it would automatically go into defense mode. Once it senses, whether it's real or imagined, if I imagine myself under attack, then automation will kick in. I'm going to be in shutdown mode. So when I require the reasoning power and the ability to see clearly, obviously it's going to be hampered by the cascading of all the chemicals that are involved in the protection mechanism that we have inherited within the reptilian brain and all them kind of brains, you know, the fight and flee response. That's why sometimes we can understand our mode that we're in through the brains. That's why we're walking in fighting mode. Because we're in fight mode, it doesn't mean that we're in a correct mode. We're in fight mode naturally because of our scrambled hypothalamus. It's been scrambled. Someone says that we're in danger. Some information is coming back to the brain, telling us, whether it's real or imagined, is telling us that we're under attack. It hasn't decided that for itself, because it can't. You have to decide that by what consciousness sees. And if you believe that you're under attack, then obviously you're going to be, people don't realize this, but they're going to be in a sort of a defensive mode. And they ain't going to flee, so they're going to fight. So it doesn't mean that we've been correct in taking that stance, that automation, because of the info that's been disseminated to us through various various groups. They don't realize that they're scrambling the hypothalamus. So what would you do with information like reparation? What are we being then the mix match between the correlation between reparation and compensation? And I often say, if we're going to give compensation, is that what we're asking for? And it puts me in the mind of a lottery. And this is my understanding. This is why I'm trying to, not my opinion, but my understanding, and see if I'm correct, if I'm getting it right. You see, you can tell me. It reminds me of a lottery. If 15 million people win the lottery, and it was 15, and it was less than, let's say, if 15 million people won £50,000 all at the same time, how much each would they get? You see, that's the kind of thing with reparation. I mean, we're talking a whole heap of people that's attuned, that's involved in this. Not just local. It's not a local thing where it's just Peckham or the whole of London, say, or even Europe. There's other peoples involved. There's the continent. If the major player, which is the continent, has the greatest say in any reparation that happens, she would have to be compensated too. Isn't that correct? The motherland would also have to have a stake in the claim. So African governments, if there's any compensation, would have the right then to say, "Oi, how about us, mate?" If that, and then so many people, you probably end up getting 10 pence each, Regin. So is it really thought out properly? Is my question, and this is why people feel this naturally, and maybe are reluctant to even. That's why they only got the little handful, because the majority of the people are not seem to be forthcoming. Even on the motherland, you don't see much talk about reparation. Much. I don't know if it's even in the news in Africa. Are they bothered? And it's her it happened to. So what is it? And as far as I'm concerned here, it's the scrambling of a hypothalamus here happening here. If I'm going to be looking for guidance, where would I get my guidance from? Do I get my guidance from the contemporary African, or do I get my guidance from the historical African who has more interest in this reparations as a way out, monetarily wise, I suppose, on the way out, of a situation to be economically viable in this time. So we're going to get paid with money. You see what I'm saying? So this is the kind of arguments that I'm looking at, and I want to see whether I'm correct in doing so. If you agree with me, let me know on the number 0779 542 9449, and I'll repeat 0779 542 9442. We'll bring it into the studios. Reparation, and what is it? What does it mean to you? How are we going to be repaired? Do we have to march to be repaired? And of course, it's an event in the community. You can't walk around and not be aware of what's happening. It's an annual thing, and so is it properly thought out? And I don't even know who's the chair of the committees of the representation here in London. You know what I mean? I don't know if they have any more in other cities. You see, in Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham. Had we heard Birmingham having a march, or the same reparation march, same time, or the whole of them, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Coventry, the rest of them, all had 72-seater coaches coming down from their quarters to swell the numbers down here. Make it a day out. Great money exchanging happening there. All of the domains in Britain, from Liverpool, coach loads. That would roadblock London, wouldn't it? But it ain't happening. And it's hard to understand why not, with such an emotive topic as enslavement. Your ancestors have been enslaved. And we're talking about generational trauma. So we need a medical bill now to give to Parliament. We want medical help. Is that what you're saying? we need to be considered. Our children also need to be considered. Their behaviour, if it's not conducive to a society that has bias in it. And we're fully aware of the bias, or the racial bias. I don't know. I'm. You know what? Sometimes I wonder if it's because of the overkill in the understanding of this whole thing, why we tend to want to say there's bias. So as far as we're concerned, our children ain't going to see. We don't see no way out for our children because of the biasness, that whether real or imagined. And that's a stumbling block within itself. but you're not going to educate your child to progress in a society that's what you think it's racist or biased, but you've been in here for so long. You've lived here. You've schooled here yourself, right? And don't tell me if you never had the opportunity to make a headway that it was a lack of opportunities as far as you're concerned, why you haven't progressed further up the economical ladder. And I don't believe that's the case. You know, it's a single ladder. Everybody's clamoring on it at the same time. I think it goes deeper than that. You know, it's not. I look at racism as a challenge, a life challenge. Human beings have these kind of feelings for whatever reasons they have. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as the divine is not intervening in this, then we are at a loss when it comes to claiming it. We are here to claim reparations. See, that don't make sense. It's better you say, we are here to claim compensation. You see? So this is what I was aiming for, to make a distinction between the word reparations and the word compensation, because it all seem to be in one word. The lines are blurred when it comes to those things. You talk about reparations and you'll find you're really talking about compensation here. So the call and the case for it, and I want to know, what are we expecting from the Caucasoid? Are we expecting a change of heart? I don't know how we're going to get something from people that don't have any consciousness. Are you going to get the people that have gotten where they've got through ill gains to rescind and to surrender their ill-gotten gains? You know, is that reality, or is that some sort of a pipe dream? You know, we as humans, we know the thing in it. We know if I have power, this is what to take over your country, mate. We can't say Africa didn't try it. Of course, Africa tried it. Africa tried it all them many years ago. Africa tried it in the Mediterranean when they conquered Spain and conquered all them places there. They tried it there. Greece. You know, who's the founder of Athens? It's a black man. You see, who founded Greek culture? It was a black culture. If you don't know, if you haven't done the research, I've done mine, and I know I can safely say that the acquisition of our territories, when we had an empire outside of our, when we were a ruling empire, we had territories outside of Africa all over the Gaff brethren, and Greece was one of them. You see what I'm saying? So the European culture, if there was such a thing, would have its grassroots founded on African principles. And that's why the English people use the Phoenician alphabet. No, there's not an English alphabet, you know that, innit? You know that the Phoenicians uses a African alphabet called the Phoenician alphabet. The Phoenicians were black people in Asia. You see, so we had it always. We had Africa and Asia controlled by the same black people. If it makes any difference to anything, it's just a thing that humans do. Humans like to take each other over. Right? We fight, we mate, we have children, we do these things. So if the way out I see is that we can recognize this as a human thing, not a particular or a thing. It's a human thing. If the Caucasoid wasn't ruling now, then another people would be ruling. We've had our day in the sun. We ruled for a hell of a long time. You read the Robin Walker When We Ruled book, you can find all the instances there. When we ruled, you can go and look in the British history and can see when we ruled there. And it's ironical that the once great people have now become at the bottom. You see, we ruled in Britain. We had King Edward was, I think, one of them men that was a black man, and there's Queen Charlotte. There's all, even way before that. Britain is not a Caucasoid country. People must get it in their head. It's not. It's a well contested area. Back in the day before the Saxons came down here, we was in here a long time. You see, before the Saxons came down, the Danes and all them kind of people invaded Britain. That time and we even in Roman times we had a representation. We were actually emperors, black emperors. This is way before slavery. So how is it that we've become servants now? Eh? We were lords and rulers, and it's going to be the same way for Caucasoid. They're going to become the servants one day again. But they were already servants to the pharaohs back in the day when they tried to infiltrate Egypt and were captured. You know, and they were enslaved. You see what I'm saying? Everybody would infiltrate anywhere. Anywhere there's more resources, the human is going to go there, and he's going to feel that he's entitled to it because he's human. Can we deny this? Can we deny that everywhere on the planet belongs to everyone? That's not a view. That's not a good political view, though, because it's not something that you would politically try to enforce on people. We understand the politics divides, and it puts people in certain positions and stuff like that, and of course everything is done by force, by might. Might is right for a lot of people. Might is right for a lot of people right here. And a lot of societies and cultures and groups. So if we're really being serious and being really educated about this thing, maybe we kind of look at this thing emotionally. You see, because the more emotions are involved, is the more we're going to be in problems. Yeah. So I'll just read this text here. One sec. Come here. One sec. Come on. Don't tell me you're playing up now. Okay. Right on. So, text sender says, not only are we expecting compensation from a group we say is without conscience, we are also being told to march in a time where a global economic recession is on the horizon, true, and in a country that is in crisis itself with Brexit and all the economic troubles it will bring not looking very realistic. I do understand that. Thank you, text sender. I do understand that. That's my sentiments exactly. In the midst of all of the things coming up on the horizon, whoever thought about this reparation march and stuff like that, is it the right time? Was it properly thought out? Does anyone need to fall on their sword? You know, the Grand Old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill, and then he marched them down again. When they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up or down. I'm on the radio, yeah? Yeah? Hello? I'll call you back. Yeah, so, you know, yeah, the Grand Old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill, and he marched them down again. When they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up or down. No, but, you know, I've thought about that. I've thought about that. But the thing about that is now, where are we in the scheme of things? I don't know. I want to feel that somebody's taking advantage of me, you know. I'd really never love to feel that I've been manipulated through my emotion like that, you know. Seriously. I'll be very disappointed to know that, you know, something as traumatic as slavery, where we got 100 million blacks died between the New World and Africa and the New World, to so easily be settled with monetary compensation, brethren. So I have to look at the wisdom of the inventors of this. Are you trying to cheapen my people by telling me that they can pay me off by giving me some money for my brethren and my kinfolks? How much you going to give me? How much is one African life worth, brethren? Don't you think that we're cheapening this thing a bit? And if it's not compensation, then it can't be for anything else. Surely it can't be for repair. You can't be marching for someone to repair you. If you've had trauma, you go into a trauma hospital, don't you? You go to a trauma hospital, innit? If we're claiming that we're traumatized, we've never been admitted, or we've never had any counselling, worthwhile counselling, and government has not been sympathetic to our cause, and stuff like that. We're told to just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and get on with it. That's what we've been told to do, and it's like living in a society. What would you really want to do, if you're in a shared territory? We're in a community of shared territory, whether we like it or not, unless you're going to live in cloud cuckoo land. If you're not realizing that you're in a shared territory with other people, and the thing is to get on with other people. Obviously, that's what the 1.3 million, or most of the 1.3 million blacks seem to be doing. Now, this group, what they call Distinction Group, now has a powerful lobby. I don't know if we can get them to look at compensation as an eco disaster. If we get them to, but they won't. See, the way I see it, yeah, you can't be asking someone to commit economical suicide here. If we claim 100 million blacks that have died between here and the New World, and how much for one life is there? And they can go on printing money, creating money enough. They have to be printing money for 50 years or so straight, 100 years or 200 years straight, printing money for us to compensate, and even that couldn't compensate, not even for one life, Regin. Are they going to relinquish their spoils all of a sudden? Are we hoping for this? I don't understand. Is this our hope? Are we gone churchified? Are we looking for a Messiah, a reparation Messiah? Are they going to suddenly turn around and have a change of heart? Is this what we're trying to say? It doesn't make any sense. What are you trying to say? This is my understanding. What are you trying to say about reparations? How are they going to change their minds and commit economical suicide by having to pay out compensation for 100 million blacks? Is there enough money to do that? How much gold standards you have? I don't know where this is going, brethren, but I'm wondering if this is even a case that should be heard. I don't know. I mean, what's your opinion? It's not about my opinion, it's about your opinion. You can voice it on 0779 542 9449. I repeat, 0779 542 9449. Is it just a spit in the wind? Or is it just rabble-rousing? I can't understand this. I don't know how viable this challenge is and how winnable it is. I listened to the speech of Esther Stanford and she quoted, as far as she was going through a mishmash of things. At one point she said they're trying to steal our resources, they're taking our lands. Then she came back into the other arguments concerning reparations, but which I found was we call it unspecific in a sense of the word, but I don't know the end game. I don't know whether no mention of the end game, or whether we are going to be just doing this forever. When the bottom drops out. If everyday bucket go a well, one day the bottom must drop out. If everyday bucket go a well. If everyday bucket go well, one day the bottom must drop out. So, how are we any further understanding if it's going to be a reality or is it just a show? That's the next thing. So, I don't know. I don't know where we are in the scheme of things here. I don't know. I remember I started late today, very late. So we've only had a couple of hours of the People's Talk Show. So never mind. We'll do better as we go. Genesis, as inconsistent as you've seen that they may be, but it's not just that. It's not that at all. It's just the way things are running at the moment. And we reorganizing again, and so we have to rewind and come again, really. So just forgive us. But there's other shows going on. That you got the talk shows during the week as well, and you got DJs, Bigger D and the rest of them, Power Cat and all them kind of things. You can tune in. They play wonderful music, and the rest of the DJs and talk shows that we have here in Genesis. You know, at least when you know you have a talk show, it's not underpinned by emotionalism really, or underpinned by any bullyism into accepting who you think you. We're not ramming down your throat what you should do, and not trying to use emotional blackmail to get to our case over, because it's not fair to do that. You know, we don't do things like that. You know what I mean? We want you to be free, to feel free to express yourself in every which way, within reason, of course, and with respect to one another. And we need to. We're looking for clarity on the subject, and we're looking for understanding. We're not looking to win an argument here. See, it's about understanding where we are and who we are. And I would say that the whole 9 yards. I think life in general is what we should be dealing with here. You know, since we're here and we're sharing territory, we got to be compatible for people. You know, it's for everyone. We got to be mindful of that. Let's go for a community of shared territory. We don't have to be the same ethnicity, but we can come together on the fact that we're sharing the same territory. That deserves some sort of a kind of a dedication and devotion too, you know, patriotism too, if you like. And so, you know, we on this limb at the moment. I don't know how long Reparation March has been going for. I don't know if they intend to get anywhere or see anything, but the point is, how are you going to get people that to relinquish their ill-gotten gains, and say, okay, take it, all right, then we're going to let go of our colonies, we're going to let go of that. You can't force them to do that. It doesn't matter by, you know, if they've won it by any ill means or ill gains, you know, it's just something that they've done. You know, just like how we done it. Just like how other races done it, from the Mongol empires, from various empires. There's been so many empires that has come and gone. Who thought Alexander the Great's empire's gone, the Mongol empire's gone, the Jewish empire is just about hanging on by its teeth at the moment. The Caucasoid empire just hanging on by its teeth. It will go the same way everyone else's has gone. So is it as detrimental as it is made out to be? I want to know. Well, in actual fact, we only got a few minutes left for the show, and you know, as I said, it's been an early session today, a late session rather. Normally we're here from 2, but you know, I just couldn't get here in time. Will I be here tomorrow? Haha, take pot chance. You know what I mean? Keep tuned to Genesis and find out if I'm here tomorrow morning. I'm not going to tell you, because when I do tell you, don't turn up, you're upset, innit? So, rise up to Steve down there in the Thamesmead side of things, Charlton side of things, I do believe, yeah. Rise up to you and your family there. I don't think you're listening anyway. I didn't tell them I was going to be on today anyway. I weren't going to come because I couldn't get no result on my phone. That's why I'm late, to be honest with you, and tell you that's the truth. I didn't get any result. Somebody called me. Oh yeah, Steve, you're listening. Of course you are. It was Steve that called me and asked me if I'm going on. So I rise up, Steve. Thank you for that, because I couldn't get Genesis on my phone. And so I decided, then fair enough, you're on. I'll come down quickly, and I've got to come from far. It's not like around the corner. I'm not making any excuses. Trust me on that. But will I be here tomorrow? Take pot chance. You never know. I may well be. Put it that way. At least you can't say Heru said he's coming tomorrow. He ain't turned up, and such like that. So you know, it's all good. We're understanding each other. It's what about understanding? It's about gelling. Again, it's about thinking about things. Thinking, do we need to be involved in certain things? In any case, is it winnable? End of the day, we all have free to make our choices. We don't want to steal away anyone's freedom of choice. We want to retain that. So we're all free. We have the freedom to choose, but we don't have the right, according to Ron Neffa in the Melanita. The reason why we don't have the right, because there's more than one people around. I can understand that. Makes sense. More than one of us, so you can't have a right. The right belongs to everybody. How about that? Isn't that wonderful, folks? So, it's all well and good. If I'm here tomorrow, then we'll be exploring more of this. We'll be exploring a whole heap more. You know me. We have to realize the most important thing for us at the moment, what it is. And so tomorrow, if I'm on, I'll be dealing with more of that again in the initiation program. Initiation into higher thinking. The higher self is paramount to deal with the multiplicity that we're seeing here today, whether it's a reality for you or it's not. It's how well you use your existence here today on the planet. So in your next existence, and this is all philosophical, esoteric talk, of course. It's not normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill language I'm speaking. Doesn't mean it don't exist. You see what I'm saying? So if you're up for that, and you like all of that, you want to make a break away from the same old, you know, hitting your head against brick wall kind of programs, you know, going around in circles. People need people to whip them into shape. You know what I mean? Play on their emotion a bit. They love all of that. They'll roll over and expose their belly for you to tickle it. You know, tickle their intellect time. You know what I mean? If you like all of that, it's a church. There's plenty of stations that can give you that. It's like a church, isn't it? You know, you're there and you get all spirited. Amen. And you we call it kin pupalik and bite the ceilings, because the same sort of thing in liberation. The preacher comes on and preaches hope, and this is the weirdest thing. They condemn other people for preaching hope, and they're just as hopeful as the people that they condemn, because they're asking about the Caucasoid is going to suddenly relinquish his ill-gotten gains and give us some money, and by what power are they going to do that? I don't know. You tell me. That's what it is in a nutshell. Will they relinquish their ill-gotten gains to the victor the spoils? Isn't it? That's how it goes, isn't it? To the victor the spoils. And I always tell them to refer to Payanki, one of the greatest tacticians that ever lived. When Payanki comes to you, you know, his idea is to get you to surrender without firing one shot. And Payanki was skilled in that, and I love Payanki. I think I am Payanki. I must be Payanki. I feel like I'm Payanki. Yeah, why not? I could be. You know, but I'm going to be like trying to get you to surrender without firing one shot. So I give you favourable terms. Smart, innit? Think about that. We ain't got that kind of thinking when it comes to reparation. Just got this old bulldozer kind of thinking to bulldoze our way through life, thinking that, you know, but we have not no strategic teachers and thinkers that I can recognise and respect and say, yeah, you know, that's a strategian or something like that. He's got it good. You know what I mean? No. Payanki would say, listen, if you surrender, we give you this and give you that and give you that. And see, when they refuse, that's when they feel his wrath. And that's where the Chinese get their art of war from. You know, get them to surrender without a shot. And that's the righteousness of our Payanki, our leader Payanki, the greatest tactician that ever lived and ruled the Ethiopian, not the Somalian Ethiopian, but the Sudanese can take Ethiopians on that. And that's my preaching done for today. No, but it's true. That's a tactician. We don't have any tacticians, man. We just got we call them brawn and no brains. Brawn, bare brawn. You're gonna bulldoze over through life. You know what I mean? Emotionally, and try to, you know, lambast and because that's the way they think that they're gonna get an achievement. But no, it can't be so. Not all the time. So we take our cue from people that have ever had track record. You know, from the limited to the unlimited. We're going to be informed from the unlimited aspect of ourselves, which is divine intelligence, Usar, Tahuti. We open up those faculties. We can be informed from the unlimited. Why be informed from the limited? Know nothing personalities that masquerade as leaders, movers and shakers of ideologies, coming and going. You know, you can be at the despotism of these people. And Heru shows about how to be free of the despotism of people that want to try and coerce you to accept their version of things. It's all right, you can do that, you know. There are people that will be at the mercy of these despotisms, and there are those that will be well informed, you know what I mean? They will be well clued up, enlightened will and all that. So we need some enlightened will at the moment. So don't forget, tune in tomorrow. See if I'm there. Don't take much. And if I usually about 10 to or 11, up until about 11, I should be there. If I am there tomorrow, I can't swear on it, but tune in. Well, you know, it's been nice, although sweet and short. Thank you for all your interjections and your texts and all that. It's been lovely. I look forward to your company another time. Stay tuned to Genesis Radio on the autopilot until the presenter gets here. And so, yeah, it's been wonderful, folks. I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening, your rice and peas and whatever you may be indulging in. It's not all that sunny today, but a little respite. It's still not cold. So, you know, we are cruising. And remember, look after yourselves. And don't do what I wouldn't do. Well, there's only one thing left for me to say. And that is what I always say. And that is, this is Heru saying I am out.